I'm going to let everybody in. Okay, well, hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you all so much for being here and zooming in and being part of this event. We are so thrilled to be launching this book and to help bring it out into the world. So we really appreciate you all being part of it. One of the really exciting things about our virtual events is that we can have people from all over the country and all over the world. John is joining us from England, I believe. So
No, Ireland.
Ireland, I'm sorry.
Right. Very close together.
So we're really thrilled to be doing this. Thank you so much. Before I do some introductions, I wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping. We're going to have time for questions tonight. So if you have any questions for John, you can put them in the Zoom chat, and we'll get to them at the end. We are also really excited to be partnering with our book sale partners all around the country, which is something that is another really exciting part of doing these events virtually. So I wanted to give them a little bit of a shout out as soon as their names load, which is another real joy of doing these events virtually. So we're partnering tonight with the King's English, Gibson's, Square Books, North Shore, and Books and Books. So that is we're really thrilled to be working with them. So by way of introduction, John Banville is the author of 17 novels and has been the recipient of the Man Booker Prize, the James T. Black Memorial Prize, the Guardian Fiction Award, the Franz Kafka Prize, a Lannan Literary Award for Fiction, and the Prince of Asturias Award for Literature. He lives in Dublin. And Alexandra Kleeman is the author of Intimations, a short story collection, and the novel You Too Can Have a Body Like Mine, which was a New York Times editor's choice. Her fiction has been published in The New Yorker, The Paris Review, Zoetrope, Conjunctions, and Guernica, among other publications. And her other writing has appeared in Harper's, The New York Times Magazine, Vogue, Tin House, M+1, and The Guardian. Her work has received fellowships and support from Breadloaf, from the Drafty Resident Artists Program, Virginia Center for Creative Arts, and the Headland Center for the Arts. She's the winner of the Berlin Prize and the Bard Fiction Prize, and was a Rome Prize Literature Fellow at the American Academy in Rome. She lives in Staten Island and teaches at the New School. So I'm going to hand over to these guys.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be speaking with John Banville, a luminary. And I know that we probably have many fans in the audience who have questions to ask John about this book and about his previous books. So I want to encourage you to post questions in the chat that we will get to later, and I'll remind you a little bit later in the event as well. John, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. And you?
Good. It's 3:00 p.m. where I am, but we're lucky to catch John in the evening before bedtime. So Zoom is a strange middle space in which we all meet, kind of like fiction. This new book, The Singularities, it's a virtuosic novel. It braids characters and concepts in surprising ways, forges new connections, and also causes us to contemplate, I think, the idea of a time of unraveling, unwinding in a really beautiful way. So for a just very short summary of the book, Freddie Montgomery, now known as Félix Mordaunt, has returned to his childhood home after many years in prison, only to find that the estate is, and perhaps has always been, the property of the Godley family. What unfolds is a meditation on starting over, summing it all up, connection and disintegration, and that really moved me and frequently made me laugh with delight as well. One thing that I think a lot of Banville fans will notice is that a lot of the characters in The Singularities are also found in your other books. So you have characters from The Infinities and the Book of Evidence, among others. And their combination in this book almost reminded me a little bit of the sort of unification projects of theoretical physicists of the 20th century, trying to bring the whole world into a system of order or understanding. Where did this idea of bringing your characters into one common novel originate, and what did you want to do with that?
Well, I didn't realize when I was starting it that this was going to be my last book. And it's my last book of its kind. I write other things, but I like the idea of finishing up. The last words of the book are infinitely full stop. Where better to stop? I like going back through my previous work. God forbid that I should ever read my previous work. But what little I remember, I was able to put references to almost everything I've written. So this is a good place to stop. It was fun.
I mean, what an amazing project to look back over your work and sort of bring it into one place. Have the characters changed or developed at all since the last time you touched base with them?
Oh God, no. I mean, humans don't change or develop, do they? We're the same from the age of about 5, well, say 6, 7, we know everything. We're the same until we die. We just pretend that we change, but we don't.
But maybe if we can forget in the best and most targeted ways, we can give ourselves the appearance of changing, something like that.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, would you want to change? I think we have this illusion, which is left over from religion, that there is a self. There's a small pilot light burning in my breast here. I grew up as a Catholic. On the altar there was always a red light that was burning there 24 hours a day. It's a symbol of the soul, but there is no soul. And we're all the better for that. Wouldn't it be dreadful if there was a soul, we would be robots. We change every moment. I'm an entirely different person speaking to you than I was speaking to my friends half an hour ago. I'll be an entirely different person tomorrow morning. Isn't this wonderful?
I mean, it's part of the excitement of life, I suppose.
Of course. As I say, if we were always the same, we'd always be the same. Look, the analogy I always use is that, you fall in love. Well, years and years ago, in the days when I fell in love. And there's this human being, and that human being is just like you, gets up in the morning, blows a nose, has a breakfast, all that stuff. But somehow, love and that concentration suddenly makes this person into a deity, into a god or a goddess. And it lasts for 4 days, 4 weeks, 4 months, 4 years, maybe 40 years. We're very lucky. We know it's an illusion, but it's a beautiful illusion. And
well, could you speak a little bit to how, this philosophy of selfhood or non-selfhood then plays into how you create characters? Do you fall in love with your characters? Is that how you come to know them and put them on the page?
Oh God, no. Puppets, they're made of words. Certainly in this book, Helen, she's appeared in a previous book of mine. She's every woman I've ever known. But I have no illusions that she's not a creature made of words. I always think that when, I read interviews with writers and they say, oh, the characters took over. I think they're either fools or liars. I just don't take over. They're made of words. They're us. They have no more autonomy in the world than the people in our dreams. When you go to bed at night, you dream, All the people are you. All the people in my dreams are me. They have different faces and they're all me.
Yeah. So can a character possess that thing that escapes us as another real person does?
Of
Have
course,
any of your characters come close?
by the power of imagination. Imagination is our greatest faculty. Imagination makes the world.
Mm.
This is how we engage with the world, by imagining it into existence. You meet another human being, the other human being isn't real until you imagine that human being into existence. And that's what art does always. Art is the realm of the imagination.
Mm. Um, Art plays a large role in this book. Science also plays a role. Adam Godley Sr., who possessed the estate that everyone is slinking around and conducting their subterfuge in, was the creator of a theory known as the Brahma theorem that plays a significant role in both like the characters' lives and in society as a whole at this time. Could you tell us a little bit about the Brahma theory?
It's all called science. I made it all up. But, quantum theory is infinitely more impenetrable than stuff I made up. I mean, do you know about entanglement in quantum theory?
Yeah,
Do you? You
yeah.
have two particles, one red, one blue, they're connected. You separate them, you take one to the other side of the universe, you change its color, and this one changes its color immediately.
Mm.
Makes no sense in our world. But your mobile phone uses that science, your laptop, as we're speaking, that's being used. So we don't understand the world that we live in. And God forbid that we should.
To someone like me who is about as far as from understanding physics as from understanding God, it's more like a metaphor to me, like a way to think about uncertainty and to think about linkages that we can't explain but we know are there. In your book, Brahma theory, as I read it, sort of posits that the more we come to understand about the world through our investigations with it, the more the actual fabric of space and time falls apart, which of course makes everyone quite depressed and unmotivated to continue in that vein.
Look, my dear, I'm having fun. I'm making it all up. This is fiction.
Yeah.
It's called science. It's no more improbable than quantum theory, but it is not science. What I'm trying to deal with is I'm not interested in what people do. I'm interested in what people are in essence. And the only way to get at the essence of human being is through the imagination.
Yeah.
Scientists will tell you, they say, oh, well, we have rigor. Actually, they're imagining, just like artists. This is something I discovered when I was in my 20s. And I wrote a couple of books about scientists. And I had read a little bit about them. I realized that they were exactly as I was. They were imagining a world. They weren't interested in what the world is. They were interested in what they imagined it to be. Doesn't matter
They're
where we
writing
are.
fiction themselves.
Yeah, of course. As Wallace Stevens, supreme fictions. This is what we do.
Well, there's a figure of a scientist, a theorist, and then there's also the figure of the biographer who moves through this house and is trying to weave together the story of Adam Sr.'s life. Is this biographer, JB, using his imagination as well, or is he trying to find these logical strands that won't reconstruct Adam Sr.? What's your view of the work of the biographer?
My dear, you're having a hard time. You're trying to find sense in a book that has no sense. I mean, This is all fiction. It's all made up. It's all play. One of the great joys of art is its play. It's fiction.
Yeah.
But it's also true. I remember many years ago when I was writing a book about the astronomer Copernicus, my wife said to me one day, she said, look, darling, fact is just fact. Truth is something else. And that was, I've never forgotten it. She was absolutely right. Fact is mere fact. And today's fact, tomorrow will be proved to be unfactual. Truth endures. And art is one of the ways of approaching truth. I won't say of arriving at truth, a way of approaching it. Because we're allowed to, in the work of art, if you're standing before a picture, if you're listening to a late Beethoven string quartet, if you're reading a great poem, you're in touch with something that is at once authentic and fictional. It's made up, but it is the most authentic thing that you will have in your day. Isn't that true?
Yeah.
You know about this.
Yeah. And I also love that you center play in talking about fiction, because I think coming from creative writing world, there's so much talk about craft and how things are put together. But if you're not having a sense of discovery and fun putting it together, then what's the point of it all?
Yes, I would burn down all creative writing schools. Well, no, that's not fair. You can learn the techniques, but you cannot learn how to be an artist. You either are or you aren't. And look, the world is full of artists. We all make up ourselves every morning. You get up out of bed, at the beginning of our conversation, get out of bed and you make yourself up into, I'm going to be this person. I'm going to pretend to be myself all day long. It's one of the reasons I love actors, because actors they're allowed both to be themselves and pretend to be themselves without the intermediary thing, because we're pretending to be ourselves. I've never felt, from the age of 4 or 5, I've never felt that I'm me. I'm something made up. But that's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing to make oneself up at every moment. But art allows us to have a sense of what it is to be a being in the world. Intensified sense. For the most part, we wander around, we have our breakfast, we have our lunch, we deal with the people we deal with. Well, you don't, but I look in the mirror and I shave. But art is always saying, yes, but there's something beyond that. There's an essential. Now, this, if I were you, I'd say to me, yeah, but you're saying there's a soul. There isn't. There is a being. There is a being in the world. And that's what interests me. Not what I do, but what I am behind what I'm doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. The life force, the life that pushes you through the day, something like that.
Life force doesn't exist. The life force, when did it start? I was born, and when did the life force kick in? And I will die and the life force will stop. So, no, there's just us making ourselves up.
I mean, my favorite time of the day is after you wake up, but before you've had to speak to anyone, you kind of don't have to put yourself in order and you can be quite an amoeboid.
Are you a morning person? Oh,
I'm a night person. I'm a night person. At the night time too, you can unravel and sort of not be certain who you are.
well, I mean, I'm never certain who I am, and I hope I never will be. I like this amorphous state of not knowing, of uncertainty. And the
Mm,
world is such a strange place.
yeah.
You know, I'm in this very, very strange place. As the great German philosopher Heidegger says, we're thrown into this world
Mm,
and we find ourselves stranded, unhoused. I always feel that I am a snail who has lost its shell. And I'm crawling through this world, trying to find some sense, hoping somebody will not throw salt on me. But that's a wonderful state. Being open to the world, being open to existence, being open to the strangeness of things.
yeah.
I,
The
I always say, you know, the sky is the strangest phenomenon.
yeah.
If
I
you
mean,
look up the sky, you're looking into infinity.
mm,
And it's a blue sky, if you happen to be in California or not in Ireland. All this cannon smoke comes up from the horizon. It's extraordinary. Clouds is the most amazing phenomenon. And
you see our
yeah,
skies in Colorado,
I
360-degree globe, and each portion of the sky has a different mood and a different type of cloud utterance it's making.
been to Colorado. I loved Colorado. My wife and I, we used to go around the Southwest. Her sister lived in Berkeley, California, so we would go and visit her, and then we would fly down to Phoenix, and we would stay in the Biltmore, Phoenix, where the room cost, I don't know, $700 a night or something. And then we would go up and stay in Second Mesa, where a room was $5 a night and dinner was $7. And the skies there were astonishing.
Mm.
Astonishing. I love that part of the world, but I would get bored with it very quickly. The sky was all blue.
It's like spending time with a person with one mood, right? You need all the moods.
Yeah, I think it's just that I'm Irish. I'm brought up in a strange climate. There's never, I mean, I would hate to be a painter in Ireland because the light changes every 15 seconds. Isn't that wonderful? It's just wonderful.
Beautiful, yeah. But a challenge.
Mm.
You've spoken about this as your last novel. How do you know for sure that there won't be another one coming? Do you feel the urge to start another with a character who didn't make it into this book, perhaps?
Well, I'm an old guy now, and that book took me 5-6 years to write. I don't want to embark on that again. I feel I've done my work in that form. I keep writing my crime books, and I do other things, but I won't do that kind of book again. Why would I?
Do the crime books also feel like play to you, or are they a different type of play? Is it
Yeah,
playing a different game?
they're pure play. I mean, with their craft work, and I quite like them, whereas I'm very unhappy with my other books because they're never anything near what I want to do. But my wife always used to say to me, she said, yeah, say you got one of them right, absolutely right, then what would you do? You'd go into politics and destroy the world.
It's true. That would be the worst thing that could happen to a writer, writing something utterly perfect. They could never write
But
again.
I am in a strange state at the moment that I'm writing some screenplays, and doing reviews and bits and pieces, but for the most part, I have nothing to do all day.
Someone is not muted. If you would like to mute yourself.
I'm back again.
Okay.
I have nothing to do. I wake in the morning, I think, what am I going to do all day? What am I going to do? And you know, it's like I hate holidays. Holidays seem to me for people who don't like their lives. I had a friend of mine, playwright, years ago, he sent me a postcard from France. He said, I'm here for 2 weeks on holiday, 1 week with good behavior. Exactly how I feel. I wouldn't know what to do with myself if I wasn't working. I mean, I've been writing since I was 12, writing all day.
So do you write when you're supposed to be on holiday as well? Are you always working? Are you crunching away on a Benjamin Black novel in the back of your head right now?
It's a good question. If I'm on holiday for say 4 days, I get so bored that I get into kind of a dull state of, yeah, let's have another drink, let's have another lunch, and then I get back to work. Work in the day. I don't know if there's a who's who anymore, but in the days there was an entry under, you know, recreations, and I put work. Work is my recreation. What else would I be doing? Work is wonderful.
Yeah.
Work
Work
is
for your play, it's your recreation, it's your work, it's all things.
So say you're a writer, you know about this?
Sometimes I think that I only stop working so that I can let the story think that I'm not looking at it, and then I can surprise it.
I know. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. Sleep used to be that for me. You know, I would sleep, but now that I'm an old guy, I hardly sleep at all. My mind is working. I said to myself, oh, please stop working, please. But you know, aren't we lucky? Aren't we fortunate?
It's a beautiful kind of work.
It's a beautiful life.
Yeah.
Beautiful life to lead, to be a writer, to be an artist, to be privileged, to the English playwright Alan Bennett said, you know, the artist is very fortunate because whatever happens to him or her is always 5% less bad than for other people, because the artist, this is material. I went to my doctor tomorrow and he said to me, sorry, oh boy, you have terminal cancer. I said, I think, yeah, I'd write about that. So it'd be 5% less bad. Here we are.
That's a good way to look at it. A reminder that if you have a question, you can ask it in the chat. You can also buy John's book at the link posted in the chat. There is a question that came in from Raymond Harrison. So John, you can see it, but I will read it aloud so those who don't have their eyes on the chat can hear it as well. Raymond writes, one could define great fiction as lying in order to tell the truth. If you are making it all up, are you saying that your fiction is merely lying in order to lie, that it has no sense of truth to it, that it has no sense of meaning and is just clever play?
Oh, it's a good question. Very articulate. God, you must be a writer. Fiction is resplendent, transcendent, lying. But isn't that wonderful? The truth somehow is arrived at. As I say, facts are mere facts, but truth is something else. And I feel that I'm now and then touching the mere surface of truth. You know, a sentence now and then, some kind of, I was going to say insight, but I don't have any insight, some kind of glimpse of something that is essential. That's what I do. And I would hope that readers would get that sense as well. There are a few things in life that are authentic. And the strange thing about fiction is, even though it's all made up, and it's always to say, splendid lies, it has an authenticity that one finds rarely elsewhere in life and in the world. Very strange business.
Mm. I mean, there's a paradox there that I think you outlined very well. When can you sense that authenticity in another's work? Do things just bowl you over, or do you feel it's present in most things you read? Somewhere a grain of it, or is it rarer than that?
I think it's when artists are least self-aware, least self-conscious, and they let the art do the talking or the composing or the painting. Then there's a moment when, yes, there's something other. I mean, look, I was writing short stories throughout my childhood, throughout my adolescence. They were all awful. But then when I was about 17, I wrote a little story. It wasn't very good. But when I'd finished it, it was separated from me. Gone. And I thought, now I know I can be a writer, because I know how to put things into the world. You know, art is not about oneself or about one's attitudes or one's opinions or one's feelings. Art is about the thing itself, the thing outside oneself. My only motto as a writer is Cato the Censor, ancient Rome, he said, rem tene verbum sequenter, grasp the thing, grasp the object, and the words will follow. In other words, don't think about what you feel about it. Don't think about, just think about the thing itself. And my favorite analogy is that when the great poet Rainer Maria Rilke went to Paris and he went to see his great hero, the sculptor Rodin, and he asked his advice, and Rodin said to him, go to the zoo tomorrow, sit in front of a cage, look at an animal, and go back the next day and look at it again, sit there all day, and then write about the animal, write about the thing, not about what you feel about it. And Rilke wrote The Panther, which is one of his greatest early poems, because not about him, not about him, it's about the thing. This is what art does. It concentrates on the world, it concentrates on the object, and concentrates with such intensity that the object becomes self-aware. The object never expects to be self-aware, but suddenly art is saying, you know, I'm going to write about you, this person or this animal or this pebble in the road. And I will concentrate with such intensity that the object will, in an intensity of self-awareness, will begin to blush. And this is what the artist does, makes the world blush.
I'm wondering, it sounds like almost like a meditative practice. It sounds like it's not a thing that you can do casually. Do you have tricks for yourself for getting there, for getting out of your own way and getting in front of yourself?
Oh, I would love to have tricks. No, concentration, absolute concentration. Falling into oneself until one is lost. When I stand up from my desk after a day's writing, I realized that the person who did the writing is not me. That person ceased to exist when I stood up from the desk. Somebody else was sitting there doing the writing.
We have some new questions coming into the chat. Mari asks, if you're never satisfied with your own work as Banville, how and when do you conclude the sentence, paragraph, or book itself is completed?
Well, the great French poet and critic Paul Valéry said the work of art is never finished, just abandoned. There's a point at which you say, I can't do this anymore. I give it up. Give it up. Sometimes it's a sort of a chime. You know, I hear it. Yeah, I've got that as near to right as I can get it.
Mm.
But one always has to be dissatisfied. If I were satisfied, as I say, destroy the world.
It's that dissatisfaction that lets you go on and write something else afterwards, because you still have the hope of getting it right.
I mean, of course, I mean, my favorite book is the next one. Written. Someone once asked the English novelist Iris Murdoch, why did she write so many books? And she said, well, I always think that the next one would exonerate me for all the ones who've gone before. And that's how I feel as well. Art is a strange, demanding, it's a glorious business, but it is unrelenting. Never lets us rest. There's no rest for the artist. The resting artist would be the dead artist, the dull artist, the failed artist.
This one from Kiara says, have you ever considered that your writing could hurt somebody you know? Have you ever thought of the moral issue of writing about the others as in somebody you know? As imagination serves to connect realities, but things and people exist, are there, and may incidentally be in your life right next to you?
That's another good question. Where did you get all these people with good questions? No, art is entirely immoral. I always tell the story that when my wife and I were together first, way back when we were in our 20s, we didn't even have children at the time. We were driving somewhere and we were having one of those terrible arguments that couples have when they're trying to adjust. And she was telling me what a monster I am, utter swine. And she was in full rhetorical flow. And I said, darling, it's wonderful. Can I use it? I said, what? I said, can I use this? That was just wonderful. Even more monster. I said, I know I'm a monster, but can I use it? She said, oh yeah, go ahead. Proud to have. We are cannibals. We will use anything. I will use, you know, I would say, my poor children always showed at me, I'd give them away for a good sentence. Little extreme, but artists are monsters and cannibals. This is how art is made. We're not nice people. If you want to be nice, don't go into art.
I always think about that when I see every once in a while there's a news story where someone's gotten upset that some of their life appeared in someone else's book. And I thought, it's your own fault for hanging out with writers.
Don't hang out with writers. Anyway, look, people always think that you're writing about them. You know, I meet a tall, blonde woman of 35, and she'd say, that little character of yours, that 65-year-old fat man, that was me. I said, oh, yes, darling, of course that was you. You know? People read themselves into fiction. We take bits and pieces of people, we assemble them, but mostly it's made up. Mostly, I go back to the beginning, it's imagination. The imagined world is far more vivid and far more real than the real world. Imagination is what gives reality to the world. The world is dull and flat and colorless, but the imagination, and not just the artist's imagination, every human being imagined the world into existence.
Mm.
You know, somebody goes in the street, meets somebody else. In order to see that human being as being human, has to imagine.
Um, I completely agree. I feel like that's also, some of our problems in a larger societal sense can be traced to not extending our imagination to others as maybe we should.
The world is not real. The people who, the great catastrophes of the world are caused by people who have no imagination, because they don't see others, other human beings, other animals. They don't see the world as being real.
Mm.
It's a failure of imagination.
Mm.
And the failure of imagination is destroying our poor world at the moment. So this is the duty, one of the small duties of the artist, is to stimulate the imagination. Say, imagine the world into existence. It's a wonderful thing. You open a book, you listen to a piece of music, you look at a picture. I was in Madrid a couple of weeks ago. I went to see Velázquez, Las Meninas. I visited at least every 3 years. One of the great, great works of art of Western culture. Entirely enigmatic. Every time I see it, it's new and it's more mysterious. And this is one of the things about art. It's mystery. Art, the work of art, does not give itself up easily. It always retains something of itself. It says, no, stand back, stand back. I am myself. That's what the work of art is always saying. If you read a book like Ulysses, if you look like Las Meninas, if you look at a painting by Pierre Bonnard, if you read Rilke's Duino Elegies, there's always something withheld. That's why we go back to it again and again. Why do we listen to a piece of music over and over and over again? Not because we love it, because we love it, of course, but because something is withheld.
Yeah.
There's always some mystery that's saying, it's a mystery here, you're never going to crack it. Keep trying. And that's the wonderful thing about art. Art is always new, always has something in reserve.
Every time you re-listen, there's always something you're coming to learn about it, and then something else that you can't comprehend that appears on the horizon.
I heard a piece of Beethoven on the radio today, and I turned it on in the middle of it. I knew it. For the first couple of minutes, I didn't recognize it. And I was just transported. Then I realized what it was, and it was slightly less than what it was before I recognized it. And this is how we should always approach works of art. I don't know what this thing is, this strange thing, as we do with human beings. I was married to a woman for 50 years. And she would say something to me, and I'd think, I don't know this person. And I could see her look at me thinking, oh, he doesn't know me. And then, I would say things to her that this is how we live. This is how life sustains itself. Imagine if we knew, if we understood everything, if everything was familiar to us. The great thing about life is the unfamiliar. It's always unfamiliar. Sorry, I'm rambling,
No, and I think this dovetails with what Vanessa's asking over here. She's asking, does writing help you make any sense of real life, to distill into writing what we can't possibly grasp in reality? But I'd add, does writing help you to understand some things in life that would be more mysterious and more invigorating if we knew less about them.
Another good question. Kind of come up with some banal questions. That's a very good. I think I started out writing in order to account for the world to myself, because I never got used to the world. The world to me is an infinitely strange place. It's always unfamiliar. Every morning I wake up and I still don't understand it. And I think I started at the age of 12 or 13 writing to try to account. I'm still trying. And the answer is no. No, it doesn't. But I would be terribly disappointed if I did manage to account for the world, because the world it's just the strangest place. We don't belong here. You know, we really don't. It's you know, I was walking through Dublin today, and I'd done my shopping, and I was carrying my shopping bags, and I was walking, looking at people and thinking, all these people are strangers to me, but to themselves, they're the center of the world. And I'm the center of the world to me. So that if you looked at the world from the other side of the universe, there are all these tiny, glistening points. Everybody, you, me, every center of the world. Isn't that extraordinary? I mean, I don't know what the word extraordinary is. Not a big enough word for it. There's a nice Freudian slip. Not a big enough world. I mean, look, being in the world is such a beautiful and such a horrifying experience. You know, the world is terrible, but it's also exquisitely beautiful. We don't deserve it. You know, this is probably one of the reasons that we're busily destroying it. But somehow we hate it because it's too good for us. But you know, my wife died less than a year ago. Last night she said to me, I'm not afraid. I had a glorious life. Amazing. You know, and I would hope that, you know, my last words would probably, oh, help me, give me more drugs. But she was brave enough to say, and she said it to my son and me, and when we left the hospital room, he said to me, what a wonderful parting gift she's given us. Human beings are, you know, we're capable of the most terrible things. I remember years ago when I was middle-aged, and I fell in the street stupidly. I tripped over something. And it was a beautiful summer morning, and I wasn't hurt. I twisted my thumb or something. But within 10 seconds, there were about 8 people around me. You know, I was looking up at them, and they were saying, you know, can we help you up? Can we, you know, can we get you a glass of brandy? Can we? And I thought to myself, in different circumstances, these people would be herding me into a cattle truck going east. We are the strangest species. We are the most terrible virus this world, this poor planet has ever known. And yet, for every Hitler, there's a Beethoven. Isn't it extraordinary? Sorry, I keep using this inadequate word, extraordinary. I can't find a better one.
It's the best word we have.
My wife said life is a glory. It's awful, and it's, you know, most of the time it's boring and it's dull. But it's also a glory. And this is one of the things that art presents to us. It says, look how glorious life is. Look what a strange thing it is to be alive on this on the surface of this planet, the center of which is on fire. You know, outside there's eternity, infinity, there's all those mad planets, and we're just these little creatures, and we're all standing upright. And the people in Australia are standing upright, but they're upside down.
Vanessa,
Go on.
Vanessa in the chat, sort of on this point, says, thank you not only for your art, but for standing up for animal rights. A real artist has empathy for animals, not only for their human readers. And I wonder, do you think that sort of empathy is essential to being an artist?
I mean, I prefer animals too. I prefer animals. I prefer dogs. Dogs, in the street, I meet their eyes and they look at me and we recognize each other. I had a wonderful experience some years ago. Went to visit a friend of mine in Italy, and we went down, we sat by the swimming pool, and I was sitting, we were talking, and this little dog came up and sat beside me. And afterwards, my friend said to me, that's a rescue dog. He said, she's been here for 6 months. She's never sat beside anybody before. Sat beside you. It's one of the most moving things. She's curled up beside me. Now, probably I'm more animal than human. But yes, animal rights, I mean, oh my God, what we do to the animals is... Milan Kundera said in one of his books, he said, you know, the condemnation of us is more to do with what we do to the animals than what we do to each other. Because they can't protect themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
they didn't sign up for our human systems, and
they look at us, you know, one of the most moving things, oh my God, I don't know if I can even say this. There was a scientist, a vivisectionist. He was doing something to a dog, and the dog licked his hand.
mm-hmm.
Of course, the vivisections went on, did the vivisection. I mean, here's the thing, vivisectionists, if the animals are not hurt, why don't the vivisectionists volunteer themselves?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you want to have an experimenter, why don't they do it themselves?
Mm-hmm.
Not to animals. Never understood this. And I've asked this of vivisectionists, and they say, oh, blah, 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 blah. And I said, you're just a hypocrite, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, was that an answer? Don't get me started on animals.
I mean, I think it's a sign of being close to the world if you have an idea about what an animal is and you can't observe that they feel pain contrary to your assumptions, and that they see you contrary to your assumptions.
It's one of the wonderful things about Darwin. Darwin was tormented by the pain that was inflicted on the lower species, the lower. Mind you, there's a wonderful little margin note in one of Darwin's notebooks, and it says, never say higher or lower.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that wonderful?
I love that.
Wonderful. Never higher or lower. We're not higher, they're not lower.
Yeah. And that's why he was such a great observer of animals. You can't think something is simple and see the complexity in it, can you?
Anyway, how are we doing here?
We're very close to the end, and I just want to ask you one final question to close us off. And I feel like this will be of a different tone from what we've been talking about. Just from Daniel, who asks, is there something peculiar to Ireland that inspires such imagination, humanity, and humor? Thinking of Haney, Beckett, and yourself, among many others.
Well, now, how long have we got? I'll be very quick. We lost the Irish language in the middle of the 19th century. In about 10 years, time of famine, we transferred from the Irish language to the English language. And the English language that was imposed on us was like the Latin of the Roman Empire. A language of command, a direct statement of, whereas the Irish language is It's very strange. I always think of it as a medium of evasion rather than communication. There's no word in Irish for no. You could say it is not so, but you can't say no. In Irish, you cannot say, for instance, I'm a man. You could say I'm in my manness. There's always this beautifully evasive thing. So when the two were put together, basic English was applied to this deep grammar of the lost Irish language. Something new was invented, which we call Hiberno English. And I think that accounts for why there are so many Irish writers. Also, of course, we love to tell ourselves our own story over and over and over again. The same old story. I hope that's an answer.
I think that's a great answer. John, we're so honored to have had you here with us. Thank you to McNally Jackson for making this event possible, and to all our partner bookstores as well. And remember to buy the new book, The Singularities, through the link that Michaela will provide.
Thank you so much, everyone. Yeah, thank you, Alex, so much. Thank you, John. That was just a really wonderful conversation. I'm so jumped.
A delight for me. I hope it was for you.
It really was, truly. Thank you so much, everyone. John, we'll let you go to bed. Everyone's always is very abrupt when it ends. So
I always assume that on these Zoom things that there actually isn't anybody else there. Looking like you know. Anyway.
We've got plenty of people.
Lovely to talk to you. And thank you for being so patient. Bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, John. Bye.